All right. Good afternoon, my fellow Jamaicans here in Jamaica and around the world. Welcome to another episode of The Money Doctor. My name is Joseph Patterson, and I'm the president of the United Independence Congress. Here on the Money, we are talking about understanding money, politics, and economics. Today, we're going to be talking about the UIC system of governance. The UIC talks about creating a non-partisan constitutional republic of Jamaica, which will protect individual liberty and personal responsibility. You are listening to UIC Liberty TV Live. With me in studio today, and our studio spreads across Jamaica and the world. At the very top of your screen is Mr. Terrell Douglas, who is the executive assistant to the UIC. Just below him is yours truly, Joseph Patterson, president of the UIC. And below me on screen is Miss Natalie Yui, a marketing director of the UIC who works closely with our vice president, Mr. Devon Thompson, right under her. Mr. Thompson hails from Portmore, Jamaica, and is currently reaching out to you from Toronto, Canada. At the bottom of the screen is one notable Mark Renaissance Cameron, an artist, entrepreneur, and all round Jamaican who is always doing exciting things on his blog, on Facebook, and beyond. Welcome to each of you, and thank you for being here with me. So
It's
let's
great to
go
be here,
ahead.
Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We're going to kick this off by allowing each of you to just tell us briefly in 1 minute what it is you know about the UIC or like about the UIC or question about the UIC. 1 minute, each of you, beginning with Mr. Douglas. You're muted, Mr. Douglas, just in case you're speaking. Mr. Douglas? Oh, uh, well, I can't hear him.
Yes, are you hearing me now?
Yes, we are. Yes, good. So go ahead,
So
Mr.
I
Douglas.
think
1 minute.
yes. So the UIC, based on its vision and mission, has the right, let's say, objective for people to move forward, where we are not dependent like slaves to the government. UIC's vision of a Jamaica where everybody takes the initiative to be responsible for their own lives, property, and liberty. This is in this way we put our combined efforts together to work, learn, train together, and start to create to really build a society of true independence and freedom. And that's what we need today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Douglas. Miss Yui, anything, 1 minute, your take on the UIC or any burning question you will have about the movement. You're muted again. You're still muted.
All right, can you hear me now? Okay, so UIC at the moment is Jamaica's, from what I can tell, Jamaica's only choice as it pertains to becoming sovereign citizens, being able to be people who can live and thrive within their land. Currently, the government is not for us, it's not doing anything for the upliftment of the people, it is focused on itself and the people who have direct interest in it, which doesn't include us, the people on whose backs they lend, they borrow money and do all sorts of things, um, only to not have any of the things they implement really benefit us.
Yes, thank you very much, Miss Yui. Mr. Thompson, your opening remarks, sir.
Hey everyone, how are you doing? My name is Devon. I'm the VP for the United Independence Congress. So right now I'm in my basement. I'm doing some work above here in the ceiling. I don't know if you can see the ceiling space here, this little empty space.
Yes,
So I'm
yes.
showing you this because I believe in self-help and self-education. I learned to do my own ceiling job by myself by watching YouTube videos. So the UIC believes in individual responsibility. It believes in Jamaicans. It believes that if Jamaicans had the tools and the knowledge to, we can succeed and we can surpass all expectations of us. And that is what the UIC is, in my opinion. And that's what drew me to the United Independence Congress. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Thompson. And now, Mark Cameron, your opening remarks, sir, before we dive into the UIC system of governance and take questions on those.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, you know that I am multidimensional. I believe my philosophy is self-reliance and collective rising. Now, I'm a solution person. I believe in solutions. And having moved back to Jamaica, it was a dream of mine to move back to Jamaica when I came to America. I moved back to Jamaica, and I realized that nothing that is being done is going to work. There's no solutions based on their actions, and it's actually quite frustrating for me. Joining the UIC was really out of frustration, want to make sure that my country works. And the things that I'm seeing right now in Jamaica is that it's not working because the process is not in place for us to have a workable country.
Yes, thank you. I should add, our viewers may not know this, but Mark was a vice president of the UIC a couple years back. He actually helped to create the UIC. He was instrumental in our development as an early party, just so that everybody knows that. Now let's turn our attention to the UIC's system of governance and what it is proposing. On your screen right now, you see the logo of the UIC. You will notice two hands are shaped. It is in the form of the island of Jamaica, the image of Jamaica, and it's a coming together. The current system of governance is one that divides. It divides us into two tribes fighting endlessly for political spoils. The UIC hopes and aims to take that away. It wants to unite us as one people, but not one people in terms of a monolithic sense. It wants us to be independent thinkers. That's why we have U for United and I for Independence. Independent thinkers. So we want to create thinking Jamaicans. Jamaicans who are not being shaped in one single form and mold, but rather Jamaicans who are being liberated to achieve their full potential because of the system that we have. And we want to get away from partisan politics. And that's why we're not a party in terms of our designation. We call ourselves a Congress. It's a coming together of independent thinkers to fix the problems of Jamaica. Now, when we started, we had the idea of referring to creating a new Jamaica. But unfortunately, because we don't have the microphone and the other two parties do, they were able, one of them stole the statement, a new Jamaica. We had to rebrand ourselves as creating a real new Jamaica. So right now, what you're experiencing is Andrew Olness' version of a new Jamaica. One where the government dominates, where the government controls, where the government dictates, where the government decides who will be rich and who will be poor. In a UIC Jamaica, the government will protect all Jamaicans equally. Your life, your liberty, and your property will be fully protected, not only from criminals outside of government, but from criminals inside as well. We want you to have a true freedom that Jamaicans have never tasted before. A freedom which is empowering, a freedom which allows you to think outside of the box, create, and take Jamaica to new heights. For example, it is time for us in Jamaica to be breaking significant milestones in science and technology. It's time for us to become water independent, food independent, and energy independent. But that can only happen if we liberate all Jamaicans and unleash the full potential of our people. So let me walk you through now and take questions on each section of the UIC's new system of governance. Our vision. I'd like to ask Mr. Devon Thompson, Vice President for the County of Middlesex, to read our vision for you and to tell us what this vision means to him. Mr. Thompson.
So our vision says that we need a Jamaica that brings out the best in all its people. What that means to me, and it's as I said in my initial introduction, it's to give Jamaicans the tools and the knowledge that they need to compete and to live on an equal level. So I saw Joseph made a post today about I think it was about Singapore, where they were saying that we shouldn't be striving for equal results. We should be striving for equal opportunities. And that is what we need in Jamaica, opportunity. Joseph told you that I'm coming here live from Toronto. I was born in Jamaica, grew up in Jamaica, but I'm in Toronto right now. Why am I in Toronto and why am I not in Jamaica? I'm in Toronto because there are more opportunities here. I would not have left Jamaica if the opportunities were there. I came here and I learned programming, I learned electronics, I learned all sorts of stuff. And that is what we want to bring to Jamaica. We want Jamaicans to be able to stay in Jamaica, live in Jamaica peacefully and successfully, right? And that's what I believe the vision is that the UIC is trying to achieve, in my opinion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. And that's also in my opinion and the opinion of all members of the UIC. Because you see, people, right now, the Jamaica we live in, the vision of the existing system appears to be to bring out the worst in all of our people. It has brought out the worst in us. It has divided us. Our politicians have placed guns in the hands of our young men. They have created garrison communities. They have funded dons with government contracts. They have provided legal protections for criminals. They have caused our school system to fail 70% or more of the students each year. They have caused us to lose more and more of our industry. Banana has failed. Sugar is failing. Coffee has failed. We are no longer a manufacturing concern in the Caribbean when we used to be the leading manufacturer in the Caribbean. So it seems as if the existing system is about bringing out the worst in our people. Our murder rate is very high. Our dollar continues to devalue day after day. Something is wrong. And it's about time we as a people stand up and make it right. Now, still talking about the vision, let me ask you, Mr. Douglas, when you read this vision of a Jamaica that brings out the best in all its people, what is it that sticks out for you?
What sticks out is that this is what the actual vision of a government that means its people well should look like. This is what it should look like. The basis from the left or corner of it, or the top or the bottom of it. This is what a vision of a government that really means well for the people looks like.
Thank you very much, Mr. Douglas. Miss Yue, Natalie, tell me, what does this vision mean to you? Miss Yue? Okay, not hearing. Mark, you can take that question. What does this vision mean to you?
Well, the vision of the UIC is about transparency, full accountability to the people that elect us, and a sustainable path that leads to Jamaica being fully independent. That is
I
pretty
don't know
much.
where to start.
We have
I'm thinking
transparency,
about it. I'm imagining.
accountability. We will have the government we deserve.
You can't hear me?
Hold on a
We
second.
don't have them. They will do what they
Yes.
want in our name, and we get the blame and we pay the bill.
Exactly, Mark. That's so correct. Miss Yue, continue what you were saying. You came on in the middle of Mark's. So go ahead. Miss Yui, please. Go ahead, Natalie. Natalie, go ahead, please. All right, I think there's a severe delay in
Oh,
her
okay.
transmission. Yes,
You can hear me? I'm just making sure. All
yes,
right,
we can.
good. Um, you know, Jamaicans are very creative people, and I feel like if there weren't so many stumps in people's way, that we'd be able to advance in so many different ways. Just now, as you were reading that, I was thinking about in schools, children go to school for so many years, and when they've left school, the vast majority of them, like, they're still wondering, what am I going to do? How, and nothing's wrong with wondering what I'm going to do, but
Mhm.
like the opportunities to be able to practically engage in doing something that is not only building yourself but building your country. There are so many industries that go in using the skills of our young people, like when they're in the stage of trying to figure out and just there's so many things we could do to help
Yes,
advance our country, and like those things are thrown to the wind. There's no like real work being put to develop our country. As you said, like our manufacturing, what are we manufacturing, what are we making, what are we producing, like, yeah,
yeah, no,
so
you're right. You're right, Natalie. It's as if somehow the government is disconnected from the desires of the people, and so it's not creating the environment for opportunities to present themselves, for opportunities to be created, and for young people to be able to access them. Somebody just wrote on the online here, Mr. Blake. Oh, wonderful! Mr. Blake is actually the treasurer of the UIC, and he wrote the current system of governance in Jamaica, formed by both the orange and the green political establishments, is about bringing out the worst in Jamaicans. This current system of governance is to keep Jamaica in perpetual servitude, slavery. This system was developed to continue colonial slavery system. I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Blake. It is really a continuation of slavery. But let us move on now to the mission of the UIC. And for that, I'm going to ask Mr. Douglas if you could just read that for us and then tell us what comes to mind when you read such a mission statement? What about it stands out for you as a young man that have spent all of your years in Jamaica and seen all the trials and tribulation? Please go ahead.
All right, so the mission: a non-partisan constitutional republic of Jamaica that protects individual liberty and promotes personal responsibility. Right. So for me personally, in my journey, I have seen where the country lacks all of this in its governance, current system of governance. Right. I'm just in my 20s, so I haven't reached far yet. But let's say with the cognitive ability, with what I've seen and what I'm seeing now, Jamaica needs a system of governance that understands the importance of a self-sufficient people, a people trained and a people who understand the responsibility they have to really, let's say, liberating themselves from dependence, which is what the illusion of, which is what they gave us the illusion in the 1960s, right?
Hmm.
The illusion of real independence and real emancipation. Instead, they gave us a system and call it, they gave you a bat and call it a ball, right? So you're trying to hit for six and go to the six. You're the bat. You're not going
Hmm.
anywhere, right? They tell you
Yeah.
you're the ball, but you're the bat, right? So this really shows you that a true governmental system empowers the people, allowing them to understand that your life is your responsibility, your productivity is your responsibility, not ours to be over your backs like house slaves that the masters send out to control you. Yes, so that's my
Thank
take on
you.
this.
No, thank you very much, Mr. Douglas. And you have focused on the last two lines or elements of the mission, which is the individual liberty and personal responsibility. I'd love, Mark, maybe you can talk about the non-partisan element, the constitutional republic element of our mission. What do those mean to you? Create a non-partisan constitutional republic of Jamaica. What does that mean to you, Mark? Or do you have any questions about it?
Well, I mean, it means to me that it will ensure that the best people in our country get to lead. The manner in which persons are elected, it's a new course. The old way has not worked.
Yes.
And I believe that with the ability to have public debates between candidates who can bring their ideas to the table and not the ideas of some foreign entity to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very important for us as a country to harness the best of Jamaica to help country. I mean that is
Yes.
very important. And right now, the system of governance we have is really pure nepotism and friends. The friends are put into positions that are undeserving of something. And Jamaica pays a heavy price for their ignorance. So
Yes.
a system where the prime minister's cabinet has to be vetted by the parish managers. That is monumental in terms of trying to effect change in our country.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mark. You're so right. And if Jamaica, this is foreign to not just Jamaicans, but citizens around the world, a non-partisan governance model, because we have been trained, to think that the way to structure a government is to have two parties, one in government and one as official opposition, and then now we fight each other. The UIC system gets rid of that paradigm and shift to a different paradigm where we simply have representatives of the respective communities or constituencies in a parliament that isn't divided by party, but you sit in accordance with your alphabetical seating. You're not here to sit on one side or the other. There's no side. So it's a round parliament. It's a Congress. So the UIC is going to create of independent thinkers who come and sit down and talk about the issues and vote on the issues and create solutions for the issues and not focus on which party you're in. So we won't have an opposition in the House of, in the Congress. What you're going to have are representatives, and they're going to be divided into three groups. Group number one is the Senate, which is made up of 40 senators elected by each parish instead of being appointed as puppets by each party. You're going to have 33 instead of 63 constituency representatives who are going to represent their constituencies instead of being representatives of parties. They're going to be nominated by their communities instead of being nominated by their parties or selected by delegates of their parties. We're going to have a constitutional republic, which means we're going to have a constitution, the rule of law instead of the rule of men. We're going to have laws that are objective instead of laws that are subjective. We're going to have laws that takes away the power of politicians and put the power back in the hands of the individual citizens. And the reason it's a republic is because a republic is not just a country with a president. A republic is a country where the constitution protects the people from the government. It's a constitution that protects life, liberty, and property rights of every citizen equally. And so in such a republic, individual liberty is highly respected and protected, and personal responsibility is demanded of every citizen. You must take personal responsibility for your own life, for your own development, for your own productivity, for your own prosperity, and the government here to ensure that nobody can take away your life, your liberty, or your property. Nobody can do that unless it's in self defense if you choose to be an inappropriate individual. But let's take a quick look now on the values of the UIC. Miss Yui, can I ask you to walk us through the values of the UIC? Read them for us and share your thoughts on any one or all of them.
Okay. Our values: individual liberty and personal responsibility, equal opportunity, equal rights, and equal justice, a safe, clean, and orderly society. Now, to me, it's very simple. Once we are all individually responsible for ourselves, then when the government hinders us from being able to optimally be responsible for ourselves, we will put the government back in its correct place. Because people are not currently responsible for themselves but have put that responsibility on the government to take care, this is why the government can dictate and hinder them from being able to be responsible. But once the roles have been reversed and we're responsible citizens, responsible people, responsible for ourselves, responsible for our families, our homes, then we can ensure that the government that we have enabled to lead us, that we've put in place to take care of those basic necessities that we all need, then we can make sure they do it because they need to do it. That's their job. Yeah.
Absolutely. So tell me, Miss Yui, do you think that today Jamaica is a safe, clean, and orderly society?
Overall, no, no,
No.
no.
And it has never been. Mr. Douglas, from you were born until now, have you seen a safe, clean, and orderly Jamaica?
I wouldn't say that unless we make it safe some way, somehow by ourselves.
Yes. So how many more years should these two parties? They have now been at it since 1944. That's over 75 years they have been at it. They should have created a safe, clean, and orderly society by now. Mr. Thompson, why do you think it's taking so long? And should we give them 75 years to do this?
Before I answer your question, I wanna ask you a question, because since you're
Sure.
I'm not gonna say much older than I am. You're older than I am. I graduated high school in 2005. Right? I went to
Yes.
Kingston College, and throughout my entire time at Kingston College, I used to go downtown or to Half Retreat to take the bus. And on multiple
Yes.
occasions, I found myself running from criminals with machetes, with knives, and even with guns as a high school student. Right?
Mhm.
I experienced that. And at that time, I looked at it like, okay, it's a normal thing, this. Devon, when you're on the street, just remember that whenever you see anybody else running, you run with the crowd, right? It
Yes.
became normalized. And it wasn't
Yes.
really until I came to Canada and I looked at how the students here are, like, they're enjoying their lives, they're walking home from school, like very, very small kids, not worrying about a thing. And then I got
Mhm.
thinking, did I really have to go through all of that? So now I'm gonna ask you the question, Joseph. Did you go
Yeah.
through that as a child?
Okay. Okay. In honesty, no, I didn't.
Mhm.
Not in its fullest sense. I mean, yours sound a bit more dramatic than mine.
Yes.
When I graduated, and just to put our age in context, you graduated, is it in 2005
Yeah.
from high school?
Mhm.
I graduated in 1990 from
Mhm.
high school, just to show you the disparity in our age and experience. Now, I went to both Spanish Town Secondary and St. Andrew Technical High School. And during those years, I saw violence. I mean, I was born in violence. So when I was born in I think it was a Sunday morning, my mother had me. She told me that she and my grandmother had to be ducking gunshots to try to get to a taxi to get to the Victoria Jubilee Hospital for me to be born. So I barely came into this world alive because out at the time, and she said this was a regular occurrence, and the community that I was born in initially, in Blake Road, close to the school there of KC, they used to have constant clashes between the JLP faction and the PNP faction. So they would occasionally come up to a certain point every now and again and bust shot on each other. And if you walk around the wrong lane, you would be bad. I was fortunate enough to walk through both sides of those cities, and for some reason, the men and boys there with guns tend to, it's like they probably saw an angel ahead because they always allow me through. They shot both of my uncles who tried the same thing. So it's a violent world, a violent country that we were born into. What gets on my nerves is that my parents knew this, my grandparents knew this, and my peers know these things, but they still vote for these two parties. That's the thing that I can't seem to understand. And then they also say, no third party can win.
Mhm.
And I said to myself, have they ever asked themselves the question, why is it no third party can win? And why is it independent candidates can't win? Because if they ask themselves the question, they might find the answer.
And
The answer, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I know I'm going to answer your question now.
Please go ahead, yes.
So the answer to your question, and Kevin always says this, the answer lies within our education system. The government is the one that has been teaching us to love them, just as the slave masters taught the slaves to love them.
Yes.
So you find that Jamaicans from generation to generation to generation fall in love with these political officials, going as far as worshiping them, right?
Yes.
Sure, I know that the reason why people call bro God is not because they worship him or anything, right? But at the same time, they're still giving him that kind of status, right?
Yes.
It's more than hero worshiping. And I always say that
Mhm.
in the same manner that we're not supposed to be worshiping politicians or giving them this high status, we shouldn't be disrespecting and disregarding them either. And the reason for that is because politicians are there to represent us, not necessarily, not to rule over us and not
No.
necessarily to govern over us. They're there to
Yeah.
represent us in parliament, which is why I say that government must be re-engineered to become a service.
Absolutely.
Service
Absolutely.
that does what? Protect your life, liberty, and
And
property.
property equally.
Equally.
Now,
Yes.
you make some very good point, Devon, because what's happening is I think our politicians of the two parties have gotten people to not see them for what they should be, employees. And part of how they do this is Mr. Douglas, they get us to call them honorable and most honorable. Saying, address the Prime Minister properly, Mr. Patterson. You must call him the most honorable. I said, why? I said, titles honorable and most honorable are not conferred, they're earned. And I am yet to see one honorable politician in charge of our government that I should even dare call such a person most honorable. We need to get the understanding that politicians are equal to us. They're human beings like us. They should not be worshipped. When we elect the UIC and I become Prime Minister of Jamaica, I will not be called most honorable. And I do not want to be called Her Royal Majesty's Prime Minister or opposition. I am going to be a Jamaican with the responsibility of securing the freedom of all Jamaicans and dismantling the system of colonization that continues to destroy our people. So I am a servant of the people. I am an employee of the people. I will be an employee of the people, hired by the people. They must be my boss. I am not to be the boss of the people of Jamaica. And the UIC MP and the UIC minister and the UIC senator must know the same thing. So we're going to drop all of the title them. We're going to drop all of the free car. We're going to drop all of the special benefits and privileges that are not accessible to all Jamaicans. Whatever the average Jamaican has to use and endure must be what the politician must use and endure. No politician must be going anywhere else for healthcare except the healthcare that they make available here for Jamaicans. No politicians must have security that is not available to the Jamaican people. So I will not be more secure than the Jamaican people. We must have a police service that secure all Jamaicans. We must have a military that secure the east of Jamaica. We must have a healthcare system that quality service to all Jamaicans. I will not be skipping the line at government office. Somebody on Facebook said to me recently, "Oh, Mr. Patterson, you shouldn't criticize it because when you get elected, you're going to do the same thing." I said, no, I am going to join the same tax line and pay my same way as every other Jamaicans. No, I don't like long lines. I don't like bad service. So it means I must step up the service so that all Jamaicans have shorter line and better service. I shouldn't leave the subjects to suffer and I get special treatment. Whatever you must do as a Jamaican, when I become prime minister and when we change the system and I am president of Jamaica or whoever we elect as president or prime minister, that person must have the same kind of service and access. He must not be treated like royalty. So there'll be no more bro God. We don't want no God in government. We want government to be a service and we want politicians to be servants, employees of the people.
And
You can say amen, church choir, if you're out there.
amen. And and that brings the politicians down to
Amen.
our level.
Mhm.
So if
Yes.
you go to the tax office as a politician and you're like, oh, this line is too long, then you find a solution to ensure that people can get through faster. But no, how the system is set up is that politicians skip the line and their friends
Yeah.
skip the line too.
Skip the
But
line.
they're
Yeah,
not down to reality. They don't understand the reality of Jamaicans. Because
exactly.
even if you were poor, as Andrew Holness has said that he grew up in a modest environment, right? And then he went into government. I don't know how long he's been in government, couple of years.
Over 25 years.
Over 25 years. So for 25 years, he's
Yes.
been experiencing the benefits of being a publicly
Yes.
elected official. So over those 25 years, he hasn't been down to earth,
Exactly.
right?
No, I mean, no, this is a serious point you're making, Devon, because watch me. The current prime minister we have, he left university and worked for 1 year in a charity. Okay? This charity, I believe, was politically affiliated as well. And after that, he went to work for Mr. Siaga as his personal assistant. Okay? And that was also a political job. And then he went from there into a seat as an MP. So all of his working life in Jamaica, from a young man just leave university to today, has been in politics in a privileged position where he gets access to benefits, where he gets special treatment. So that is why he's probably a bit detached from the realities of real Jamaicans and don't understand that Jamaica is in a painful state. Mr. Douglas, earlier on you said that you think today might have been a little bit better than years ago. Actually, no. When I finished university, when I finished UTech, I had 3, 4 job offers. Today, most children who leave UTech have no job offers. And the job offers I had were all high paying jobs back then. When I get my paycheck, my mom, she nearly cried. She says, 1 month of your paycheck, 1 month is almost 6 months of my earnings. She was working at Kentucky at the time, and I was working as assistant engineer, assistant manager as an instrumentation engineer for the sugar company. And she was like, my gosh, look at that. Today, similar students graduating don't have the opportunities that's faced with in 1990. In the 1980s, we had far more industries in Jamaica. In the 1970s, we had more than we had in the 80s. In the 1960s, we had more industries than we had in the 70s. So Jamaica has been on a steady decline over the years, opposed to building up. We have gone from the number 1 country in the Caribbean down to near second to last in the Caribbean. So this is serious. But let's move our values, which we had a walkthrough from Natalie earlier on, and we're now going to look on our pledge. I love this pledge. Who wants to say it for us? Any volunteer?
Let me.
All right.
Okay, go ahead, Terrell.
All right.
As one who loves my own property and the right to earn, own, and freely enjoy my property, I pledge to respect and help to protect the life, liberty, and property of all others, do my part in helping my fellow citizens to create a safe, clean, and orderly society where all may live, earn, and retire with dignity in true liberty, where unprovoked force, corruption, and fraud are abolished from all human relationships, so that we may finally become one Jamaica, united, strong, and free.
All right. I love it. I mean, who wants to take it on and just tell us, what does this pledge say to you? What does it mean to you when you see these words, when you read this? Anybody can go first. Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Okay, now this is a big one. So everybody knows what the Jamaican pledge is, and I see the Jamaican pledge as being very important, which is why in primary school they always ask us to repeat it. But pledge is
You're muted. You're muted.
meant.
Okay.
No way.
We can hear you
This
now.
entire time out.
No,
Okay.
go ahead. Yes. Repeat. Yeah, we lost you for a bit. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay, I was saying that the Jamaican pledge isn't reflected in governments, therefore it's not reflected in society. So this pledge that Tyrell just read is reflected in future UIC government, a future government that's going to be protecting the life, liberty, and property. So what happens is that right now the system that we have is saying, Jamaicans, I blame you, I blame you, I blame you. Right? You are the cause of this. And the system is not accepting any of that itself. So what this pledge is saying is that government needs to set an example. Government needs to say, okay, hey, I am going to limit my responsibilities and my duties, and I'm going to protect your life, liberty, and property from myself, which is government, and from all others. So once the government sets this image of a system that's protecting, then that will be passed down to the citizens of Jamaica, and then the citizens themselves now can come out and say, okay, I, just as the government is respecting my rights, my freedoms, I will respect the rights and freedoms of others. I will not steal, I will not kill, and I will not take the freedoms of everybody. I will not enslave anybody. Because if I do that, just as the government itself will be sanctioned, I will be sanctioned. And that is my opinion. That is my understanding of
Well said. Well said, Mr. Thompson. Well, I couldn't have said it any better. When people ask me, what is the UIC's primary philosophy? What are we really about? I normally say it is to protect. I said, you as an individual, you have the right to do whatever you want with your life, with your liberty, and with your property, so long as you do not infringe using force or fraud on the life, liberty, or property of others. Just imagine built on such a clear principle for every child, for every community. What a brilliant country we end up with, where every child can tell you from primary school, my life, my liberty, and liberty is mine. I can do with it as I choose, but I cannot interfere with somebody else's life, with their freedom, or with their. Now, the whole mindset changes. Today, what do we have? A society where corruption runs rampant. And because the government is corrupt, the people is corrupt. And now we have a lot of trickery and corruption and theft and, of course, murder. So we have to change the mindset of the people by first changing the philosophy of governance and have the government operate the way it should so that it can influence the people to operate the way that they should. Do you agreement on that, Mr. Douglas? Ms. Huey?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So now we're going to go to the philosophy of the UIC. Miss Huey, you want to take that one?
Or philosophy. It is the right of every human being to be free. Therefore, the only moral justification of government is to protect the life, liberty, and property of every citizen equally. Good governance is therefore the protection of individual liberty, promotion of personal responsibility, and the provision of a safe, clean, and just society. Protecting our individual liberty is the only sure foundation for a truly peaceful and prosperous nation.
Imagine a Jamaica where every Jamaican feels safe, a Jamaica where every Jamaican feels liberated, a Jamaica where every Jamaican knows that the society they live in is a just and orderly one. Can you imagine the maximum productive capacity of such a country when the people are liberated? You know, believe it or not, it will be the first time in the history of our country that we're actually free. It will be the absolute first time in the history of Jamaica and since the slave trade began that any group of African people would be free. There's no country on the planet today that has embraced freedom fully in the way that we're talking about freeing the Jamaican people. And when we free the Jamaican people, we will be a model, we'll be an example to the rest of our Caribbean brothers and sisters, to the rest of our African brothers and sisters, to the rest of the diaspora of African people around the world. So this is our great difference we're about to make in the entire world. Even America will for the first time see what a truly free country can be. They talked about liberty, they talked about freedom, and to some extent they even embraced elements of it. But we, the people of Jamaica, will become the first nation on earth that true and unequivocally protects the liberty of every single person in this country. And that's the philosophy I see. And we begin that philosophy by saying it is the right of every to be free. Mr. Douglas, at a point?
Yes, definitely. And we have to truly understand as well that the current colonial constitution does not give any idea of any freedom really, since we are not even seen as living in the eyes of the law. We're seen as what is called persons, and the same constitution gives the government the power to take back those freedoms as it sees fit. Right now, I just saw a post on Instagram that Peter Bunting did, and I don't follow up these people. Somebody sent a link where he's saying that the prime minister is instating a bad law. He's taking the power to change the current constitution so that he can make any criminal laws that he feels fit. And this is very unsafe. Very unsafe.
Yes.
So even if the current flawed constitution is changeable, imagine what powers this man is trying to drag upon himself to put over the people, right? So,
But here's the big Travis. What he's doing is constitutional.
what is the something that should
existing
be so
it should be
unconstitutional? Sorry.
unconstitutional, but
Yes.
the current, you see, here's the problem. The current constitution that we have was given to us by our slave masters. Now, think about this. Would you want to take a life plan, a plan about how to govern your life from somebody who
Enslaved you?
abducted you, raped you,
Maimed?
enslaved you, and beat you and torture you? Would you want to, at the end of that experience, say, thank you very much for a description as to how I should govern myself, how I should lead my life? Yet still, those who we call our founding fathers, Norman Washington Manley and Sir Alexander Bustamante, and all those other men and women who formed a part of that group that authorized a constitution which they will then enforce on Jamaicans. That's the constitution that gave us the Jamaica we have today. A constitution that sowed the seed of division, a constitution that sowed the imagery of inferiority when it placed a white woman resident in England at the top of the constitution, her name, and it is her that we are honoring, both her and her heirs. A constitution which later on they added a Bill of Rights, same time gives the power to the powers that be to take away those rights if and when they see fit. A constitution which is written in such language, people call it legal language, such language which the ordinary Jamaicans cannot understand. Most can't. If you start reading it, you'll fall asleep. Deuteronomy or Numbers.
Yeah.
Even the 10 commandments in Exodus is much clearer. You know, thou shalt have no other gods before me, all the way down to, you know, honoring your mother or father, or not lusting after other people's things. I mean, the American Constitution, by the way, took about 8 years to written and turned out to be only a few sheets. Our Constitution, we took only 3 months to produce it because we didn't produce it. It was given to us and put together, and 2 weeks to approve. And the Jamaicans were not a part of it because in 1962, most Jamaicans couldn't even read. They had no idea what was being forced upon them. They trusted Norman Manley. They trusted Bustamante and said, these white men are going to look after our interest. They trusted Edward Seaga. They trusted all David Corr. They trusted all of these men and one woman who sat down and then come and tell them that going to be independent, and they welcomed the Queen of England on our soil, bowed before her, danced before her, sang before her, and sang her praises, welcomed their conqueror and their slave masters, and said, here you go, you are now an independent nation. What a massive lie. What a travesty. What a disgrace. And then they kept up that charade. They kept up that charade from 1962 to this very day. Andrew Holness, a prime minister born after independence, has kept up the charade. Bruce Golding has kept up the charade. Portia Simpson have kept up the charade. PJ has kept up the charade. Edward Seaga has kept up the charade. Michael Manley has kept up the charade. Donald Sangster has kept up the charade. All of them have kept up the charade of an infantry when they know it was a lie. And
Joseph,
now we should continue to believe them. Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
I can tell you right now, without even doing any research, I can tell you right now that 99.99% of Jamaicans don't even know what their rights are, have never read the Jamaican Constitution. So even though when the Constitution was created, Jamaicans had no idea what they were getting themselves into, we
Yes.
still don't have any idea what we got ourselves into because we never read the Constitution. And
Yeah.
back to what Tyrell was saying, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I thought that we truly did have rights, but with what's been happening over the past few days, with all of the changes in regards to the lockdowns, I'm realizing that the government can truly, constitutionally, legally take your rights away under a public emergency because the Constitution gives them that power and gives them that right via the Governor General who reports to the Queen of
Mhm.
Jamaica. I just want to say something to our viewers, those tuning in. It's important that you keep the language a little bit down. I see Calvin saying something here. Calvin, please note that your comment is airing live on this video right here. So please be careful with the language that you're using on this line. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Thompson. And I sympathize with Calvin Martin, who wrote that unfortunate comment, because what it indicates is that the level of ignorance is deep. That there are some Jamaicans who even if you're trying to save their lives, they can't even tell that you're throwing them a lifeline. It's like a man who is drowning and you are trying to save him and he will drown you in the process because he can't realize that he's being helped. He's just focused on trying to stay alive, that he kills you and kills himself. So, Mr. Martin, I understand where you're coming from. I sympathize with you. You have my deepest sympathy, and I hope that one day your mind will be adjusted accordingly. So,
Yeah.
yes, let's move on. Oh, go ahead, Mr.
Yes,
Douglas.
I was just going to say it's the same attitude that is from the days of old that is here now. And me as a youth who used my own mind to really say, let me look to what the system really is showing and can see for myself without anybody having to tell me that this whole thing is a sham and a big ruse to keep us mentally enslaved. So when I see things like these and comments like these now, it is sad because
Yes,
we as a people have to first learn that we're being enslaved to cut this enslavement and start really being independent. You know?
absolutely.
Yes.
And I mean, it's, yeah, you have it so right. I mean, I see we have another guest on screen here, Miss Youth Downer. Miss Downer, how are you doing, ma'am? Turn on your mic here if you want to talk so I can hear you. I can't hear you. Welcome, Miss Downer. All right, so she's still not connecting yet. Maybe her mic isn't working. We're now going to move on from the philosophy of the UIC to compare, Mr. Douglas. We're going to compare the UIC system with the current colonial system. And so I'm going to ask you and Mr. Son to take alternate lines. So I'm going to give the first three lines to Mr. Douglas, the next three lines to Miss Yui, and the next two lines to Mr. Thompson. So let's kick this off and show Jamaicans how the system of the UIC will differ markedly from the system of the current colonial model endorsed and enforced on the Jamaican people by the two ruling colonial parties. So let's begin. Mr. Douglas, with you. Take us through the first three lines and give us your thoughts on them as you show the difference between the two systems. Go ahead.
All right. In this way, please don't mind if I mention the colonial way first. Sometimes it's better to mention
Sure.
the problem and then say the solution. All right.
Yeah.
So the colonial way, foreign head of state, fake independence. The UIC way, Jamaican head of state, real independence. Yes, this is our utmost problem here. Our slave master isn't even of Jamaica, right? And we're still following all of their edicts through their governor general, and this is simply not right. right? They have managed to deviate this from attention of our people from then. But of course, we're becoming way more aware of what Jamaica's colonial structure truly is and where powers truly lie. Second
So
line,
it's mental. So it's mental slavery.
mental slavery.
Because just imagine our children waking up. They're to basic school, primary school, and whenever they're introduced to anything country, or if they look it up online or whatever, what they see, Jamaica's head state is this foreigner, this white woman in another country. What does that do to your sense of pride, to your sense of who you are as an individual? When that is you can't even aspire to be head of your country because that's taken away, that's never accessible. You are not qualified, you little black girl, little boy. You're not qualified to be head. We can only have a foreigner, a white woman, that can be head of our country. That is quite mentally denigrating, wouldn't you say, Miss Yui? You're muted.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
It's despicable. It's yeah. Mr. Douglas, continue.
All right. Second line, the colonial way. Head of state and head of government, two positions, mostly correct. The UIC way. Head of state and head of government, one position, less costly. Yes, this is definitely true. Because if we are truly too honest from the government of how much they spend to maintain all of their charades, poor people would need to be poor. You know,
Exactly,
sometimes
exactly.
when we really analyze the figures that they tell us about of the costs for simple things as elections, where people just need to walk going to one polling station and cast them vote, the millions upon millions of dollars that is spent in all of these constituencies, it is ridiculous at its core. Have you any idea how many people these millions of dollars that they're wasting marketing themselves as so-called leaders? Do you know how much this can go into, right?
Yeah, Mr. Douglas, it cost us over $250 million for the Governor General.
I would
Over
even
$250 million every year to have a Governor General. You know how many little children could have been educated with $250 a year for a pointless, meaningless, useless position of a Governor General and a Prime Minister, which, by the way, we're paying for several Prime Ministers, because before Mr. Patterson left office, he passed a law that all former Prime Ministers must be paid the same, their pension must be equal to a Prime Minister's salary. No other Jamaicans get a pension that is equal to the salary of their predecessors. Other Jamaican. So these people think them a royalty. They want a system of they want to continue the colonial model of having some royalty above you. And so we're paying now. We're paying for Mr. Golden. We're paying for Portia Simpson Miller. So we're paying three prime ministers. We're paying Mr. Holness and two others. And if Mr. Seaga wasn't hadn't passed away, we'd be paying four prime ministers right now, plus a governor general, $250 million. What a ripoff. But anyways, continue.
well, the people of Jamaica allow it. Let's say that.
Mhm.
Third line,
And we going to stop it if the people of Jamaica elect us to stop it.
yeah. Let me tell you, I think a lot of this happens, because the people of Jamaica are not being made aware of it adequately. They will, these
Yes,
people, the
yes.
way how they operate, they will surprisingly push it in the media one, and you never hear about it again. Because when or if
Yes.
it comes up, they'll say, "But we said it at that time," and what, yeah,
Mhm.
and it's because
Oh yeah, it's smokes and mirrors, smokes and
yeah,
mirrors. So they keep, and what up? They make sure it's like what we're talking about. Hear this on TVJ. You don't hear this on CVM. They don't invite us on to have this kind of discussion.
no,
Instead, they'll have somebody come on and have some meaningless discussion. They'll have long episodes and fanfare or something. Episode on digging into this and talk and educate, because guess what? They are protecting the system. They want to keep that system in place because the system is working for them, even though it's not working for the majority of Jamaicans.
Right. It works for the corporations too, which play a big role in all of the corruption.
But remember, the corporations own the media. So when we talk about the
Does-
media, and we're talking about the corporation, and when we talk about the corporation, we're talking about the politicians, because the corporation fund the two major parties. They give them millions of dollars every year to trick the people so that they remain in office, to continue to trick the people, to continue to give special privileges to these corporations. And so it's all one connect circle. And the people outside of the circle, or the 90% of Jamaicans who earn less than the American minimum wage.
which and we are the victims of this system of corruption.
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So moving to the third, the colonial way. Party insiders decide who can be prime minister, head of government, the UIC way. The people directly elects presidents as head of state and government, which is, for me, which is what it should be, where the people truly elects. But I actually, based on what I'm seeing, I don't believe that even with these general, that the people truly elect. Based on some things that I've seen in even the last election, there seems to be massive corruption behind the scenes. And it's only those people who have these information sitting on, it's only those people that can properly confirm it. But these people sometimes may be incentivized not to, you know?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I mean, you must understand, these are determined by nominations. Okay? So who nominates the people we go to the ballot to elect? The nomination is based on the party that you're a part of and those who fund that party, which is why many Jamaicans do make themselves available to run as independents or to run other like up the UIC. Many are afraid to do that because they know that if they go to the PNP or the JLP, they will have funding, right? They will have massive support because they're passively funded by the private sector organization members. And so determines who get nominated. That determines who is going to be prominent on the ballot. For example, when I was running in Northeast St. Elizabeth as an independent in 2016, I was on the ground from the beginning. And as soon as indication that my popularity was growing, the JLP just simply withdraw a long-standing candidate and bring in a new candidate and put her there. And she easily got 6,000 votes. So she never had to spend any time in the constituency really, what was people voting for? They didn't know her. They just drop her in yesterday. They got 6,000 votes because she is in that party. If she had been like me and had just come as an independent and say I am here, one, she wouldn't get the media attention. Two, she wouldn't have the funding to go and do give away the stuff that she does. So she would get probably 100 votes, if that many, or 50 votes, or 30 votes. And so the nominees, they control electoral system. The people voting are just there to authenticate the corruption. The voters are there just to make it look like it's real. We do not have an elected government in Jamaica. It's a complete fraud. It's a farce. And we're not really seeing that this is not democracy's dictatorship covered by corporate funding.
Kevin would say plantocracy.
Yes, a plantocracy. Absolutely. So continue.
I think Natalie next, Fort Line.
Yes. Mhm.
You're muted, Natalie.
The colonial way. Let's see. The two
Major party. Mhm.
the two major party leaders get to appoint rubber stamp senators. And the UIC way, the people of each parish gets to elect their own as independent senators. Oh, continue.
Well, you can give a comment on it, to tell us what it means from your perspective.
Okay. You know what? As I'm right now, I don't even feel like I even understand what senators are doing. It's this.
Well, they're there to be robust for the party.
So what's the purpose?
But that's it. They're there to see all of this is to make the system look credible.
I like how she puts it. What's the purpose? What's the
Yeah,
purpose? Yeah.
it's to make the system look credible. It's to say we have senators, and Congress met, and the senators voted on whatever, and they have news items. Oh, Senator so and so said this, or senators. Let's get this clear. The Senate is used as a place of political patronage. So if the party wants to make a certain face visible, they first appoint him to the Senate. So if I want, say, let's say I was proud and I like you, Natalie, and I want to get to see you and know you, so that when I put you up in a constituency to run, they'll vote for you because you're more visible. I would appoint you to the Senate. And you would just do my bidding and get up and say nice words because I just appoint you. It doesn't mean you're qualified. It doesn't mean you bring any true value. Maybe you look nice and I want a nice face there. Or maybe I want you to become my finance minister later. So first I put you in the Senate so that people get, and then later on I give you a safe seat and you run, and then you're now my finance minister or my health minister or my other doggy minister or else. So it's all a charade. It's a trick, and they bite the trick and eat the trick, not realizing why would you have an organ of the legislature being appointed by the leaders of the two parties. So right now there are 21 senators. 13 of them are appointed by the prime minister, so that leader of one party, and the other 8 appointed by the leader of the opposition, which means the prime minister automatically has a majority, right, to get his wishes. So what else come from the House of Representatives up to the Senate, the prime minister already has an automatic majority. Now, on the UIC system, the people of the parishes would elect 14 persons, and each of those persons would go to the Senate now with a careful attention to the needs of their parish and the issues of their. And so any bill, any law which comes from the representative to the Senate, because you are looking out for your party to scrutinize that carefully, and nobody know you're not just voting for your leader, your party. Now you're focusing on the issues. There's also no guarantee of any particular majority in that house when you have the people elect, as opposed to the prime minister appoints. And so we're going to get rid of trade, and we're going to make a real Senate with real elected independent who can deal with the business of their people. The good thing is, ban from each parish, it means that every parish will have an equal representation in any discussion. So whatever comes from the House of Representatives to the Senate, they'll have 14 equal persons sitting around the table saying, okay, how will this affect St. Thomas? How will this affect St. Catherine? How will this affect St. James? How will this affect Hanover? How will this affect that? How will this affect St. Mary? And so now your proper debate can pass. And that debate will, everyone in the parish only have one. So that for that to pass, it need to meet muster. It need to can truly address the interest of it. You see me? Now at the representative level, since we do, we go and broke up them there, we're on party delegates appointing you, and make sure that it is done by the people, of the people, so we can have real issues focus rather than party focus. But continue to your next slide.
Okay, the colonial way, the PM appoints whomever he wishes as ministers without having to justify the appointments, and the UIC way is the president nominates qualified persons, the Senate vets, and the House votes to confirm or reject nominees. And as it pertains to appointing ministers of our government, then that makes it makes a lot of sense for them to be qualified,
Yeah,
qualified people in their fields, so that they can. Because I don't know, I just disheartening when you think about the current government in every way, shape, and form is just built for its own interest. The interest
yes.
of people is never is doesn't seem to ever truly be the center of the argument. But where this is concerned, having qualified people who are like doing their best so they can truly advance our country and truly move forward.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it
Can I
seriously,
move on,
the no, not
or you
yet.
want to say something?
I'm gonna say something here. On the colonial way, the prime minister is given enormous power to destroy us. Look what happens. The prime minister, in his action, decide who is going to be minister of education, minister of health, minister of finance, minister of the environment, and he is choosing from party faithfuls who have been elected. So they may not even be qualified. The person, nothing about the environment, nothing about health, nothing about education, nothing about finance, but you're going to make this person this. So, and he doesn't have to justify his selection. He just pick anybody he want. And if they're not in the House of Representatives, he can go and appoint them to the Senate, appoint 4 persons to this, and then appoint the ministerial position like he did with Roel Reed and give us that disaster, right? So the UIC, that is wrong. No man should have the power singularly to appoint ministers of government without any justification for his appointment and without any clear standard of qualities and qualification for those positions. So the UIC says, no, let the president, because we're going to move from prime minister system now to a presidential system, let the president, in consultation with the vice presidents and the general secretary and the treasury secretary, let them nominate qualified persons for these positions who are not elected politicians. So they're going to look at the vast Jamaica out there, Jamaicans at home, Jamaicans abroad, and say who we can find who is highly skilled and qualified in energy to help us become energy independent. Who we can find who is highly skilled and qualified in education that can help us move our education system to high quality. Who we can find that understand balancing the ecology and maintaining a good environment. It might be a Jamaican living in Israel who's highly qualified and competent in the matter. And so, sorry, the president would now nominate this person to the Senate. So he would nominate and say to the Senate, here's who I would like to be in this position. The Senate now, being an independent body of 14, representing all parishes, will now look at the qualification of the person, look at the requirement of the office, and have the person publicly, cameras and all, and interview tough questions of the person. And then at the end of the day, the Senate will say whether they wish to recommend this person to the House to be elected. If they recommend the person to be appointed, then the House will look at their recommendation, the House of Representatives, and vote yes or no. If the House of Representatives isn't happy with the recommendation of the Senate and not happy with the nomination of the president, they can say no way. Now here's the real clincher here. After that person is appointed by the election of the House, they cannot be removed by the president unless a similar process is used. This now protects that person from a vindictive president. You understand? Because the president might first of all propose somebody, it's a good person, and the person is doing a good job, but then the president don't like the person now and want to get rid of them. You understand, TJ? And so he might want to know, just use what Andrew can do now and say, okay, I'm going to dismiss you. I'm going to my cabinet and dismiss you. No, the UIC system said, no, that will not be allowed. The president would have to come back to the Senate and say, I would like to remove this person for these reasons. And the Senate would have to deliberate on and see if they agree with the president's arguments. And even if they agree, they make a recommendation to the House of Representatives to vote yes or no on the removal of that person. So that will bring tenure stability and make sure that even after action, we can't get rid of a good finance minister just because he was appointed during Joseph time. You understand? That person, if they're good at their job and the House of Representatives and the Senate want them to do their job, they stay. And by the way, they can't remove it either and then request that. So at all times, we have checks and balances between the different powers, which will protect the interest of Jamaicans. Is that clear? Is that understandable? Any questions on that? No? Okay, continue then, please. Oh, Mr. Thompson, you had a question on that?
No question. I thought it was my time.
Oh, it is. Okay, good. Well, you go right ahead, please.
Okay. Yes, I'm listening keenly, even though I'm working.
Good. Excellent.
Okay, so I can't see it on the screen, so I have to use my phone.
No problem.
Okay, so the colonial way says that the MPs are elected by party hierarchy or delegates instead of constituents. The UIC system says that the UIC way says that MPs are nominated by the constituents and not by a party. But so currently, how the system operates is the PNP, the JLP, right? We're talking about political parties here. These political parties would nominate an individual to represent, right? And then this person will go on to contest the elections. So what the JLP and the PNP normally do is they bring in somebody from outside of the constituency, usually, to bring them in to represent that constituency. What the UIC says it's going to do is that it's going to nominate someone within the constituency to become the representatives. So what the UIC is saying is that we need to change this system. We need to change the system to allow constituents themselves to nominate individuals to become representatives for their community, which is why the UIC calls the system a non-partisan system, because that's the only way that citizens or constituents can actually nominate someone to become their representative to represent them in the House of Parliament. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And just to add to that, Mr. Thompson, for clarity, in the current system, the citizens can, in fact, right now, nominate individuals, but the system doesn't encourages it and doesn't design it to bring it to fruition. Instead, what the system does, it says, yes, you can do it, but give primacy to the political parties their way. And then that knows citizen participation and citizen participation. So the UIC, by eliminating parties from the process, so the parties no longer can overshadow the citizens' action, and we're going to design the system to encourage and facilitate and make easy for the citizens themselves to engage in making their own nominations, followed by their own elections of their own peers to serve as their representatives, and not allow parties to come in and manipulate them and take away their inherent rights to choosing from among themselves one to represent their in the Congress that we shall create.
And the next one says the colonial way is for big money to determine who has the advantage, and this is unfair and costly. The UIC way says that the campaign will be publicly funded for all candidates, and it's a fair and economical process. The system we have today, usually corporates or individuals, they fund these political parties, and it's the political party with the most money that wins the election. I don't know if you guys know this, but in the last election, the PNP and the JLP received equal funding from corporate Jamaica banks like was Sagicor on the list, Joseph?
Yep, Sagicor,
Sagicor,
NCB,
NCB.
Scotia Bank. Yep.
And you know the funny thing is when they donate these funds to these political parties, it doesn't really matter who wins because they're going to be
Yes.
representing the interest of this corporation.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to bring up a point because it just came to my mind. We're in the midst of a pandemic, right? So remember last year, the government held an election and there was the Black Lives Matter protest during the midst of the pandemic, right? So nobody said anything. But then February, Sagicor had its run. I don't know if it's called Run for Cure.
Yes,
Sagicor had
that's run for cancer cure, yeah. Mhm.
Run for Cancer, right? So I'm thinking, aren't we in the middle of a pandemic? Why is the government allowing Sagicor to have this event to create a super spreader activity? So then I'm thinking, oh, I forgot. Sagicor is their donor.
Absolutely. And so they all our regulations. So you'll hear citizens say, yeah, we want more regulations. We need to regulate this and regulate that. No, that the regulations you're going to get will be regulations that protect businesses and kill small businesses or stifle small businesses or hold down micro, small, and medium businesses. All of government laws and regulations are designed to protect their funders, and their funders are big business. That's why the UIC wants to get big money out of the campaigns. And how do we do that? We have a beautiful system for doing that. We simply make sure that every candidate gets equal access on the communicate their message and take away the big money and outlaw big money so that all candidates are treated fairly and the elections are reduced and the citizens actually get the information they need to make good and relevant decisions. Before we move on to the next slide, which will look at that process, does any of you online want to make a comment or anything before we move on? Okay, no. So we're going to move on. Before I do this slide, I want down to here first to explain the one publicly funded of a nonpartisan campaign financing system. This system shows you how we're going to make campaign financing no longer big money affair, the honest and fair system. So, first of all, a potential candidate coming from any community is required to pass an exam. It's an exam that's based on good governance. It's a test that they have to study for to show that they understand how government works, understand the systems of governance, that they understand the pros and cons of different systems, that they understand the impact of decisions they would make if they are elected to office. This good governance test will include civics, history, economics, mathematics, and communication. We think this is very important because your representative must be somebody who has the academic and the technical skills necessary to analyze, and make good decisions. You don't want somebody sitting in your Congress or House of Parliament who really doesn't understand history and economics, who doesn't understand mathematics, and therefore can't reason and make effective decisions on your behalf. So a very important element for anyone that wants to run for office under the UIC system of governance. Once they pass this governance test, they must now go into their communities and get a certain number of persons to sign a petition to have them appear on the ballot. It won't be a very big number. It will be something they can go on foot and walk around. Now, the persons who sign that petition are also giving away their votes. They're giving that vote to that person permanently for that election. So that means they will have to take it very serious, be flippant about it, because when you only can sign one candidate, and that candidate you sign and say you want them to be on the ballot, you are giving them your committed vote. Now, once the person has the required number of votes, they will be given equal paper, radio, TV, and internet publicity. The same format, no fanfare. So hear from them on radio in the same format, same space. They'll see them on television. They will see an internet profile of what their platform is or what their manifesto is, what they're going to do if they're elected, what they're planning to do, what they're promising to do, and so on. They will also receive equal access to public debates and discussions in their respective constituencies. So if you're running in Northeast St. Elizabeth, then all the candidates in Northeast St. Elizabeth would appear in public debates and discussions together so that the citizens can see them and hear them and ask them questions. Once that is done, they'll be publicly vetted. Whatever they put out there will be vetted and fact-checked by auditors to say whether or not their statements have been and not libelous, and that their plans make economic sense, the numbers add up, for example, and so on. Once citizens have this assurance coming from the audit, from the debates, from the advertisements, from the good governance test, the citizens can now vote with confidence because they are very comfortable knowing that these are qualified and competent persons to represent them. The candidate that receives the majority vote would then become the representative for that constituency or for that parish, or if it's at the national level, the president, or if it's at the county level, the vice president for the. And so this is a new system, very revolutionary, carefully thought out by the UIC to ensure that we protect the integrity of our system and create an inclusive, non-partisan system that shifts the focus away from tribalism and corruption to actually addressing the issues of constituents, the issues of parishes, the issues of the counties, and the issues of the nation. I will now take questions from each on the system. Pick any area of the system that you want to ask a question on for clarity. And don't be afraid. It's best that you ask questions, even a question you think a citizen might ask. You may understand it, but you want to say, somebody else might not quite get it. Could you please explain this, or how will this work? Feel free. Anyone can begin.
Do you want some hard-hitting questions, or do you want some
Yes.
simple questions?
I want questions.
Tough questions?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Patterson, I am now your opposition. Okay?
Yes.
So don't
Please.
consider me you're the vice president of the UIC right now.
That's the point.
Consider me a supporter of the PNP and the JLP, because I'm going to ask you a
Yes.
very, very tough question that I see
Good.
supporters of such political parties asking. No, Mr. Patterson, I'm looking at this thing here, and it seems to me that this might be a system that doesn't respect political parties. Are you trying to create a political system with no political parties? Are you trying to get rid of political parties, sir?
Thank you very much for that question, Mr. Thompson. While we will not rid of political parties in the sense of outlawing political parties, we want a system that returns the advantage to the individual Jamaican and take that advantage away from the political parties. Currently, Jamaicans are disadvantaged in that all you have to do is form a political party, get some big donors to back you, and then you can get enough power to capture the government of the people and run it and ruin the lives of Jamaicans. What this system will do is return the power back to the people by making parties weaker and the people.
All right, a question from
Please
from
go
me.
ahead, Mr. Douglas. Yes.
Unlike Mr. Thompson, I am not opposition. I am, let's say, citizen. Let me use the word
Yes.
citizen.
Good.
All right. So how is it that you propose, sir, that we alleviate all the millions of dollars that it usually costs to do campaigns and all of these massive expense that regular politicians undertake?
A good question. Before I answer that, Mr. Thompson, did I answer your question in full, sir? Are you satisfied with the answer?
Joseph, you're asking the wrong person that question because I recently switched back to the UIC. So,
Okay.
but yes, the answer was properly answered.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
That's a
Mr.
bit split
Douglas.
second, yeah.
Yes. So, Mr. Douglas, so your question is now, what about the massive amount of campaign funding and campaign spending that normally happen? This system eliminates all of that. You will no longer have people hanging out on buses, putting their lives at risk. You'll no longer have any massive charades going through the streets. Now you're going to have our citizens' mind, because they won't be selecting persons based on green and orange or blue anymore. But now they're focused on policies and what is being said. They're driving the mind now away from polarized minds to thinking minds, away from party color to reasoning. And so this is going out about 98% of the cost of campaigning right now. What it's also going to do is to make it possible for the poorest of Jamaicans to put themselves up for office, because now they're afraid. They don't have to be afraid of the other party. They're afraid that they don't have enough money. All they have to have is an idea and the competences to represent the people. Competences are tested in this test, and the ability to connect with people is tested by their going out and getting committed persons to sign on their candidacy and give at that point in time. So maybe let's say you have to get a 25 person to sign. Those 20 persons are giving you their vote then and there, and they're losing their right to vote for somebody else later on. And then you are now being given equal access to radio, television, internet, equal access to debates, equal access to discussions in the public. So people can now hear your views. Even if you're on the wall, people can hear your views and decide whether they want. And now the citizens know that you're vetted, you're fact checked, and so they now can say, okay, I want to vote for Mr. Douglas because I like what he's saying. I think his policies make sense. He has been fact checked. I know he doesn't have any stand around there, and he's intelligent. He was able to pass the good governance test, so he understands economics, he understands history, he understands math, he can communicate. So I feel in voting. So now the cost of campaign dropped down to nearly 2% of what it now is, and the people actually get subsidized to vote.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. That was a good synopsis, because I truly believe that all of the money, that 90% of the money that these people waste and pad their pockets with, it's meaningless spending just to get people to vote. This is money from taxpayers that are wasted in this way, and our people,
yes,
all they do is jump on the bandwagon every year and hang out at the windows of the bandwagon and shout out power, shower, and them have no power in them lives, and them probably need to fix them shower in them bathroom. So
chances are they don't even have a bathroom or a shower.
All right.
And I'm talking from experience. I'm talking from experience. When I was a little boy, we never have no bathroom in my little one-room house, and we never have a shower. I have to go bathe outside, and it was terrible. So it's time for us to have a different governance, to have Jamaicans living a quality life for a change. Ms. Huey, did you have a comment to make or a question?
I don't know. The biggest comment that's like buzzing in my mind is the idea that, as you stated earlier, just merely this, although I realize that this would be after, we've been elected.
Yes.
The system. But through this system, then this is also really reshaping people's mind from that of being inactive, sitting
Yes.
around, waiting for the show and the parade, but it will
Yes.
encourage them to be active in being responsible citizens who are responsible for themselves and who want the people that represent them to also, you know, be responsible people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's just the thought that was running through
No,
my
and
mind.
that's a good thought because the whole design of this is to change our thinking, change our mentality, so that our focus now is no longer on just the excitement of elections and the loyalty to. Now going to be loyalty to
To duty.
yourself, loyalty to your responsibility, loyalty to your country, loyalty to
Results.
wanting a better life. The
Results.
results, yeah, results, loyalty to results, as opposed to loyalty to games and fanfare and trickery.
Right. Just
Um,
to
so yeah,
interject, Mr. P, I
mhm, yeah,
realize that what these politicians do is at every election they draft up a list of
mhm,
to put on that list and say, see, this is what I did. This is what I did, and
yeah,
I did this and I did that. And can you see that I am the one that you
yes,
need to instate? But
yeah. I
what
I gave you
I
bunnies
get
with my
picture on
picture
it.
on it. I I kept you without running water, but I sent out running water with my picture on it to give you water. I created a ribbon cutting exercise where I brought water for the first time to your community at a standpipe, and I will cut a ribbon and get excited as if that is a significant element in 2021 or 2020, as the case may have been. That is an insult. That is a disgrace.
An
That
outdated chart.
Yes, exactly. What people want now is for Jamaica to be properly modernized. We need to have. Right now, I'm looking outside my window here, looking down. If a person is walking on my road out there and a car is coming, they have to jump in on the bush because there's no sidewalk for them. They have to share the same road with the car, and the road is so small. If two cars are passing, they have to slow down. This is 2021. There's still many communities without internet access, many communities without property, many communities without passable roads. So taxi can't let you off at your gate. There are many communities without streets, so you can't travel comforted nights. Okay? There are residents right now because of this COVID shutdown that are suffering in silence. They
Mhm.
have internet. If they even have the data is not so good, they don't have enough data or the quality of the internet isn't good. They don't have a modern equipment to use. They don't have electricity. They have the things there, but the electricity goes on and off. They don't have steady electricity. When they wake up
But
in the morning,
so,
they have to go outside to bed.
just before you even pass the
Yes,
point, as it
yes,
relates to even students suffering in silence, one of the
yes.
most important things that we always seem to look over is the psychological damage because of the lack of a social life.
Oh well,
And
yeah.
it's
In this case,
affecting these kids at a massive rate, and it may be so apparent now to most, but as
mhm.
we go on, you see the psychological damage on these kids.
Yeah. Much of the damage we're not going to see it until a few years down the road.
Right.
When we're talking in 2025, 2026, 2027, we're then going to see how the current policies have been on the Jamaican people. There are many jobs that will never come back.
Right.
A person who is, say, 65 today and their business have now been destroyed by government's policies, they're not going to come back. They don't have no recovery.
And they don't
They're
get it now.
right, and you have some people, their assets will be foreclosed by the bank, and they're going to lose. You know, they're going to lose their assets. They're going to lose their business, their homes, lose their car, lose
And
their means of production.
and
Go ahead.
this is all caused by blind compliance.
Exactly.
You know,
It's all caused by a constitution that does not protect the rights of people. B, a government that is not working on behalf of the people, but on behalf of foreign interest and other
right.
local big money interest. And three, by a people who has not educated themselves and decided to stand up and fight. And they're expecting somebody else to do it for them. They say, "What is the UIC doing?" No, that's not the question you should ask.
Right.
You should be saying, "Thank God there's a UIC. Let me jump on it and go help fix my country." Instead, "What is the UIC doing?" As if by miracle, money as manna should fall from heaven in our laps, and we should go and open schools, open hospital, provide jobs, and do whatever. That is so unrealistic. And there's so many
Yes.
unrealistic people. Go ahead,
You
Mr.
know,
Douglas.
you know what I've seen a lot in the comments of the UIC Facebook group. Whenever there's an analysis of the current system of governance, the only question I see some of these people asking is, then what does the UIC propose? What will the UIC do about it? Not, but we don't think that what will we do about it?
What
It's
exactly?
our responsibility. It's not the
All
UIC alone that will just get up
yeah,
and say, yes, this is paradise over here and we are leading you to it. Come, let's
exactly.
go. What will
All of us.
we do?
Yeah, what we have done, what the UIC, all of us in the UIC, what we have done is to create a vehicle, right? We have spent the time. Remember, all of us who are here, we're doing this for free. Natalie is taking time away from her children and her family to be here now, even trying to encourage others to do this. Devon is trying to fix his basement and is has to take time out of his busy schedule to be here. He has to go to work tomorrow, but he's here spending time. You, Mr. Douglas, you have your work to do and you have to be here. You should be focused now on building your product, your services to reach people and build up your own personal economy. Instead, you and us are here creating a united independent Congress to bring people together to say, let's get back, let's get our life back, let's have government that works for us instead of government that works against us.
And
Mr. Thompson.
yes, just to follow up on what Tyrell said about the comments in the UIC group, he's very right because there was an incident, I can't recall what it was, and there was someone in the group chat asking, "What is the UIC going to mount a lawsuit? Are we going to march in the streets?" And so I said, no, she said that in relation to corruption and what's going on. So I said, to be honest with you, protest and march won't really solve the issue of corruption. What could probably help us is maybe if we have a lawsuit in the court system, but it wouldn't really solve anything without the UIC winning an election. And then the person got really, really upset, right? Really wanting
Yeah.
us to do for them. So then I said to the person, I am unwilling to do for you what you won't do for yourself.
Yeah.
And the person went berserk,
Mhm.
upset, right? And that's the point of the matter is I'm a regular human being just like you. Whatever I can do, you can do. And you shouldn't put
Yeah.
all your faith in us. You shouldn't put all your faith in the JLP and in the PNP. What the UIC is, it is a tool to be used
By you.
yeah, used by you. It is a tool to be used. So why aren't you using it? Why are you?
Why
Yeah,
why are you sitting on the sideline and saying, "You guys in the UIC, go do my job for me. You go and fix government for me. You
While
go
I
and
sit
fix
and
problems
watch.
for me." While I sit and I was to, if I like what you have done, I will go and vote for you. That's a big mistake because the voting is the least of it. It's not the voting that counts.
Support.
It's your intelligence that counts. You intelligently getting involved and saying, I want a new and better Jamaica, and I want to understand how to get there. Let me go reason with these people and see if they can help me to help myself. And so you comment, oh, so the UIC we're going to go and change the system of governance so we have a real good constitution. They're going to change the electoral campaign financing system so it's no longer corrupt and we get quality people. The UIC has policy to cap taxes at 10% on income and 10% on GCT and eliminate duties so that I can build my business and grow. The UIC is going to make sure that no child goes without proper nutrition, proper education, proper healthcare, or housing. But they're going to ask parents to step up to the plate by providing quality opportunities for work engagement. Oh, good. So let me get involved. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to donate and encourage my family members to get involved and vote for this party. Or I don't like what the UIC has to offer. I'm going to continue to vote LP and PNP, even though I have more than 75 years of failure in history to look at. I still want to continue with the failure I know because I'm not willing to take the time to learn and understand why the UIC system is better and how I can be a part of bringing enough Jamaicans on board to vote for it so that my country can be clean, my country can be more orderly, so that we can grow and produce and create more opportunities for us.
Agreed.
All right. I think we've so thank you very much for joining us today. We're now at 1 hour 50 minutes. We went over our time, but let me say thank you again, Mr. Douglas, Executive Secretary of the UIC. Thank you, Ms. Huey, Marketing Director, member of the Marketing Committee. Thank you, Mr. Devon Thompson, Vice President of the Middlesex County for the UIC. And thank you, Ms. Hewlett Downer, for joining us in the background, listening and writing comments. Really appreciate it. And thanks to Mark Cameron for being on earlier. Thanks again to all of you who tuned in. Those of you who were writing online, Mr. Hassan Blake, Lisa Lewin, Hassan, others, thank you all very much. And please spread the word. Subscribe and share whichever platform you're on, whether it's YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Tell everybody about the UIC, because this is the last great hope for Jamaica. Thank you and have a good evening. Take care.
Thank you.